Machiavelli understood a truth that most men spend their entire lives ignoring. The moment you feel compelled to defend yourself, you have already surrendered power. By arguing, by explaining, by justifying, you step into someone else's arena. You move to their rhythm, you play their game, you hand them the frame. Power is not something you defend, it is something you command, something you project without hesitation. To defend is to admit that someone else has the right to challenge you, to question you, to judge you. And in that subtle surrender, you lose more than the argument. You lose authority, respect, and the invisible crown that separates the powerful from the weak. Today we will reveal why Machiavelli insisted that true rulers never explain, never justify, and never defend themselves, and how mastering this one principle allows you to flip the power instantly, turning every attack into an opportunity for dominance. The trap of defense. The most insidious and overlooked trap in the relentless game of power is the instinctive urge to defend oneself. When your reputation is challenged, when accusations or whispers seek to undermine you, the first spark of your humanity is to fight back, to explain, to justify, to clear your name with words that you hope will mend the perceived breach. But Machiavelli recognized a far darker truth. The moment you respond, you have already fallen into the carefully laid frame of your adversary. To defend yourself is to grant your accuser a silent authority over you, an acknowledgement that their words possess enough gravity to demand your attention, enough leverage to provoke your energy. Even if you succeed in dismantling their claims, even if your argument leaves them exposed and humiliated, the act of defense alone communicates vulnerability. It signals that you are willing to step into their arena, to fight on their terms, to be measured by their standards. Power, the kind that commands awe and imposes influence, does not participate in trials. It dictates the rules. It holds the gavel. It shapes the narrative before anyone else speaks. Every word spent in defense diminishes your stature, casting a shadow of desperation, uncertainty, and agitation. By speaking, you breathe life into the very accusation you wish to bury, inadvertently spreading the poison wider than it could have traveled in silence. But silence, deliberate and impenetrable, is the highest form of strategy. Cold, measured, unwavering silence frustrates, disarms, and humbles the observer. It denies your opponent the satisfaction of seeing you react, of extracting any concession or tremor. Most critically, it communicates to everyone who watches that you are not bound by ordinary expectation. You are a figure above the petty need to explain, a presence that does not negotiate its authority. The higher your throne, the less your audience believes you are beholden to their judgment. And it is in that distance, that unshakable quiet, that true power resides. 2. The power of mystery. Machiavelli understood that fear and respect are often born not from what is known, but from what is concealed. Men fear that which they cannot fully comprehend, and they hold in highest regard that which escapes their complete understanding. Mystery is not a weakness. It is an impenetrable form of armor, a silent fortress built around your persona. The moment you rush to justify yourself, to explain your choices, or to illuminate the reasons behind your actions, you dismantle that protective veil. You lay bare your uncertainties, expose your hesitations, and offer glimpses of the vulnerabilities that your enemies, ever watchful, long to exploit. But when you embrace silence, when you refuse to clarify or rationalize, you cultivate an enigmatic presence that unnerves and fascinates alike. Your refusal to answer forces others into a labyrinth of speculation, a maze of questions without clear exits. They wonder, why does he remain quiet?
What unseen power allows him to endure without protest? What knowledge, what hidden advantage does he possess that we cannot discern? In that deliberate silence, you generate a fog of uncertainty. And uncertainty, as Machiavelli knew, is a weapon more potent than any sword. Ambition falters in the shadow of the unknown. The ambitious, the schemers, the rivals, they hesitate, recalibrate, and distance themselves in the presence of what they cannot define. Mystery amplifies your authority, magnifies your presence, and forces others to project onto you fears, assumptions, and respect that words alone could never command. Explanation diminishes. It anchors you to human frailty. It tethers you to ordinary comprehension. Mystery elevates. It commands attention, breeds caution, and ensures that even your enemies must acknowledge, in their uncertainty, the quiet, formidable dominion you wield.
3. How defending weakens authority. Authority is fragile. It exists not because people understand it, but because they believe in it. Machiavelli observed that rulers who stooped to defend themselves shattered the very illusion that gave them power. For when a king explains himself, he places himself on the same level as those who question him, as if his word alone were not enough. Every justification is a confession of insecurity. Every defense, a silent plea for approval. And once people see their leader begging for understanding, respect evaporates. Authority does not come from proving yourself, it comes from commanding without need of proof. The wise ruler knows that power is maintained through distance, through an aura that suggests my word does not require explanation. My actions are beyond debate. Defending yourself drags you into the mud with lesser men, where your crown weighs nothing. But to remain calm, to smile while others demand answers, to continue as though the challenge were beneath you, that is what cements your authority. For nothing makes you appear more powerful than showing the world that you do not owe it an explanation. 4. Let accusations rot. Accusations are like sparks. They only burn if you kneel down to blow them out. Machiavelli understood that every false charge, every whispered rumor feeds on attention. When you rush to deny it, you breathe air into the flame, and soon the fire spreads beyond control. But when you ignore it, when you act as if it carries no weight, the flame suffocates on its own. The people are fickle. They grow bored quickly. A rumor that is not fed will wither and die, collapsing under the weight of its own insignificance. The powerful understand this and refuse to bend down to swat away every insult hurled at them. They know that silence is not weakness, but strategy. It lets the filth decay while you remain untarnished. By showing no concern, you send a message far louder than words. This accusation is beneath me. And the crowd, watching closely, learns from your example. If you treat the slander as nothing, so will they. Thus your enemies destroy themselves, their words rotting in the air, while you ride untouchable. 5. Turning the attack back on them. There is a hidden power in refusing to answer your accuser. You force them to reveal themselves. Machiavelli knew that an enemy expects resistance, expects a counterattack, expects you to fight on the battlefield of words. When you give them nothing, when you meet their fury with calm silence, you unbalance them. They grow impatient, louder, more desperate, because their entire strategy relies on your participation. The more they push and shout without response, the more foolish they appear. Soon it is not you who looks weak, it is them who looks unhinged. The crowd begins to wonder, why is he so obsessed? Why does he scream while the other remains composed? And in that moment, the attack turns back on the attacker. Their passion becomes their downfall. Their noise becomes their humiliation,
while your calm becomes your crown. This is the genius of Machiavelli's strategy. You win not by striking, but by allowing your opponent to destroy themselves with their own fire.
6. The art of controlled response. Silence is powerful, but Machiavelli knew there are moments when words cannot be avoided. Yet the key lies not in defending, not in justifying, but in controlling the manner and weight of your response. The weak man responds instantly, emotionally, in long explanations that reveal his agitation. The powerful man, however, chooses a different path. He responds rarely, briefly, and only when it serves his purpose. A single sentence, delivered with composure, cuts deeper than 1,000 excuses. A short phrase such as, "My actions speak for themselves," or "This matter is beneath me," can crush an accusation far more effectively than endless explanations ever could. What makes this art so potent is timing. You do not rush to speak. You let the accuser sweat in silence. Let their words echo unanswered until the world grows weary of them. And then, when the moment is right, you drop a single precise statement that closes the matter with finality. No debate, no argument, no back and forth. Your words should feel less like dialogue and more like a decree. In this way, you maintain control of the frame. You dictate the tempo. You never allow yourself to be pulled into another man's arena. Machiavelli understood that authority is not proven by how loudly you speak, but by how little you need to say. A ruler, a leader, a man of true presence does not waste breath on justifying himself. He speaks sparingly, and every word lands with the weight of iron. 7. Silence as dominance. There is a reason silence terrifies people. It is a mirror that reflects their own weakness back at them. Anyone can raise their voice. Anyone can argue, complain, or lash out when challenged. These are the weapons of the common man, the tools of the insecure. But silence, true, unshaken silence, is something rare, something unsettling. Machiavelli understood that silence is not passive, it is an active weapon of power. When a man remains unmoved in the face of insults, when he refuses to justify himself or even acknowledge the attack, he places himself above the conflict entirely. The one who shouts appears desperate, but the one who listens calmly, without flinching, radiates a strength that cannot be touched. In this way, silence is not weakness, it is dominance. It tells the world that you are beyond provocation, that your dignity is untouchable, that no insult can shake the foundation of who you are. Silence denies your enemy the reaction they crave, and in doing so, it starves them of power. The furious man grows more agitated, his words less precise, his anger more obvious, until he collapses under the weight of his own lack of control. Meanwhile, your silence magnifies your presence. It forces others to ask, what gives him such confidence? Why does he not answer? What does he know that we do not? And this is the beauty of Machiavelli's wisdom. Silence creates mystery. Mystery creates respect, and respect creates power. By saying nothing, you say everything. That you are not on trial, that you owe no defense, that you are untouchable. Silence separates the rulers from the ruled, the disciplined from the desperate. In the game of power, those who cannot remain silent are slaves to their emotions. Those who master silence command not only themselves, but the perception of everyone around them. For in a world addicted to noise, the one who controls silence controls the room. 8. When to speak and when not to. Silence is powerful, but Machiavelli was no fool. He knew that absolute silence in every matter could also be dangerous. There are times when words must be spoken,
But the key distinction is this: you speak not to defend yourself, but to command. The weak speak to explain, to beg for understanding, to persuade those who doubt them. The powerful speak with purpose, not as reaction, but as declaration. They do not waste breath countering petty accusations. They speak only when it advances their position, strengthens their authority, or directs the course of others. In this way, words become like weapons, not swung recklessly in panic, but drawn with precision when the strike will have the most effect. The lesson Machiavelli gives us is that words should never come from desperation. When you speak, it must feel inevitable, like a decree that allows no debate. If you must clarify, you do so in a way that reinforces strength, not weakness. If you must inspire, you do so from a place of command, not defense. The danger lies in confusing necessity with impulse. Most men speak because they cannot bear silence, because they are consumed by the need to prove themselves. But the ruler, the strategist, the man of presence speaks rarely, so when he does, the world listens. A single phrase uttered with composure outweighs 1,000 frantic defenses. This is the balance: know when to withhold and when to deliver. Speak only to set direction, to establish law, to project vision, never to appease, never to argue, never to explain. For in the theater of power, every word carries weight, and the less you speak, the heavier your words become when they finally fall. In the silence between them, your authority grows. 9. Living the principle in modern life. Machiavelli's wisdom is not confined to palaces and thrones. It applies in every arena of life, including yours. In the modern world, accusations may not come from rival princes, but from co-workers, competitors, jealous friends, or even family members. And still, the same trap exists. When you feel compelled to defend yourself, you make yourself smaller. Imagine in the workplace, someone whispers about you, suggesting your success came from luck or dishonesty. The weak man rushes to explain, to prove his innocence, to plead with others to see his truth. But the Machiavellian man understands that words are wasted. He does not defend, he produces. He delivers results so undeniable that no accusation can stand against them. While his enemies choke on gossip, he builds a record of victories that speak louder than explanations ever could. This is the same balance in relationships. When someone tries to provoke you, to drag you into emotional arguments, do not defend, do not justify. Let your calm, your consistency, and your silence prove your worth. A person who does not need to explain himself radiates strength, and strength attracts loyalty, trust, and even fear. In friendships, in business, in love, and in the pursuit of ambition, the same principle holds true. Results are the ultimate defense, silence the ultimate response. Machiavelli's teaching is simple yet brutal. Never descend to the level of the accuser. Rise above, continue your path, and let time, action, and success bury their words in irrelevance. For in the end, the man who refuses to defend himself forces the world to judge him by what he builds, not by what others say. 10. The final lesson. Command, don't explain. Machiavelli's ultimate lesson is simple, yet devastating in its truth. Never defend, never justify, never attempt to explain yourself to those who seek to diminish you. Power is not proven through argument, it is enacted, demonstrated, and embodied. The weak spend their lives reacting, chasing every insult, correcting every misperception, exhausting themselves in a futile attempt to control the opinions of others. But the truly powerful understand that their authority comes not from the consent of the crowd, but from the projection of strength and certainty. To defend yourself is to admit that others have the right to question you. To command without explanation is to assert that they do not. Every word you save, every silence you maintain, every deliberate action you take becomes a statement of supremacy. You do not prove your power to anyone. You display it through your actions and your presence. When you refuse to engage in defense, you force others to bend to your frame. They measure themselves against your composure, your indifference, your deliberate choice to rise above. Their insults, their accusations, their attempts to provoke all collapse under the weight of your unshakable poise. You become the one who dictates the tempo, the narrative, the world itself, not as a tyrant who screams for obedience, but as a master whose presence alone demands it. Machiavelli understood that those who can command without the need for defense are untouchable, feared, and respected. Their silence is louder than 1,000 arguments. Their actions speak more convincingly than any explanation ever could. So remember this: the moment you stop defending yourself, you stop playing by someone else's rules. You step into your own arena, where your authority is unquestionable, your power unchallenged. Never defend, never explain, simply act. Simply command, and let the world adjust itself to you. The strong do not negotiate their dignity, they embody it. The strong do not argue their truth, they live it. And in this unyielding, unapologetic mastery of self, you achieve the highest power of all, the power to move through the world untouchable, respected, and feared, while others remain shackled by the very words and accusations that you have chosen to ignore. The lesson is clear. Defending yourself is a trap, an illusion of control that only diminishes your authority. Silence, composure, and decisive action are your true weapons. When you refuse to justify, when you refuse to explain, when you rise above provocation, you force the world to respect your presence rather than your words. Power belongs to those who dictate the rules, not to those who react to them. The moment you stop defending, you step into a new arena, the arena where influence, respect, and fear bend to your will. Now it is your choice. Will you continue to fight every accusation, every whisper, every slight, and lose your energy, your dignity, your control? Or will you master the art of silence, act decisively, and let your results speak louder than anyone's words ever could? Begin today. Stop defending. Start commanding. Rise above the noise. Own your power, and let the world adjust itself to you.